Martell Holt, Maurice Scott, and the ongoing drama that just does not seem to stop on Love and Marriage Huntsville. And trust me, the way these men try to twist stories, dodge accountability, and then point the finger at other people will make you shake your head. So watch all the way through because I'm breaking it all down in detail. It all started when Martell Holt and Maurice Scott sat down together, and honestly, that whole conversation was a circus. You had Martell sitting there with that smug little smile on his face, acting like he didn't know what was going on, while Maurice was trying to play the role of the wise, level-headed lawyer. But let me be clear, Maurice was not fooling anybody. He wasn't really concerned about Martell's mental health like he was trying to make it seem. What Maurice was really worried about was Martell spilling too much about what goes on in their circle, about their houses, their business, and their reputations. Because if Martell starts talking too much, Maurice knows things will get messy for all of them. And the funniest part about this, Martell wasn't even trying that hard. He was just laughing at Maurice's story. And honestly, who could blame him? Maurice's DUI story doesn't add up, and everybody watching could see right through it. Maurice sat there and tried to tell Martell that he hit an animal, hit a pole, had a concussion, and then somehow went on about his business like nothing happened. Now tell me, does that sound like the truth to you? No, it sounds like somebody who got caught and is trying to make up a story to cover himself. And you know it's bad when even Martell Holt, of all people, is laughing at your lies. Now, Maurice wanted to sit there and act like he was trying to give Martell advice. He said Martell had been playing the villain for so long that he actually became the villain. But let's be real, here Martell wasn't playing anything. He really was the villain in his marriage to Melody Shari. He had narcissistic traits. He was living a double life. He was disrespecting his family, and all of that came to light. So for Maurice to try to spin it like Martell somehow fell into that role, no, he was living it. That was who he really was. But the bigger problem is that Maurice himself is no better. He has his own skeletons in the closet, and instead of dealing with them, he projects them onto Martell and tries to look smarter than he actually is. And the part that really made people laugh, Maurice said he ran into an animal. When Martell asked him what animal it was, Maurice just said it ran off. Let's pause right there. If you hit a deer, a turkey, or any large animal with your car, there's going to be damage. There's going to be blood. There's going to be proof. But Maurice couldn't even name the animal. That's how you know he was lying. And Martell, laughing at that story, had viewers laughing right along with him. Because Maurice's explanation was so unbelievable, it felt like a child making up a bedtime story. Now, let's talk about Kimmy Scott for a second. She was sitting there trying to hold it all together, but you could see in her face that she didn't fully believe Maurice either. She didn't want to be embarrassed publicly, and you can't blame her for that. Nobody wants their spouse's drama to be aired out on television. But the problem is, she defended him anyway, even when the story didn't make sense. And that's the part where Melody Shari once tried to warn her. Remember when Melody pulled Kimmy to the side and said she knew what it felt like to be embarrassed by her husband? She was speaking from her own experience with Martell, and Kimmy brushed it off. But now she's in the same situation, dealing with a man whose story doesn't add up. Now, what really makes me side-eye Maurice is the way he tried to flip everything back on Martell, as if Martell is the only one with issues. Maurice brought up Martell's mental health, his side chick, and even asked him these inappropriate questions about being in a room during certain situations. It was so unnecessary, and it made Maurice look messy and desperate. Because let's be real, Maurice, Marceau, Scott, and Martell Holt are all guilty of the same kind of behavior. They just take turns pointing the finger at one another so that the heat is never on just one of them for too long. And that's exactly what Maurice was doing in that scene. Now let me tell you why this whole DUI story is so wild. Maurice claimed he had a concussion, yet there was no hospital report. And if he had really been hurt, Kimmy would have been the first one to make sure he got medical attention. She's a nurse. She's been in the medical field for years, and she would never play around with that. So for Maurice to say that he had a concussion, but then have no proof of it, that's another hole in his story. And on top of that, the whole thing about his case being dismissed doesn't mean he wasn't guilty. We all know how the court system works. Cases get dismissed for all kinds of reasons, backlog being one of them. But that doesn't mean he didn't do it. He just got lucky this time, and instead of being grateful for that grace, he's out here acting like it proves his innocence. Now, Martell, for once, actually had a point. He told Maurice, if it's not true, sue us. And you know what? That's exactly what Maurice could have done if he really wanted to prove his point. But he didn't, because deep down, he knows that bringing more attention to it would only make things worse for him. And the fact that Martell, of all people, had the stronger point in that moment just shows how badly Maurice fumbled. Viewers were shocked because Martell is usually the one on the losing side of an argument. But in this case, Maurice's story was so unbelievable that even Martell came out looking better. Now, let's not forget about Maurice Scott in all of this. He wasn't in the conversation, but his name always gets brought up whenever cheating and cover-ups come into play. Martell has hinted at Maurice's behavior for years, and fans have always suspected there's more to the story. And let's be honest, the whole linebacker rumor didn't come out of nowhere. It's always been smoke around Maurice, and where there's smoke, there's usually fire. So for Maurice to act like he's above it all, while Maurice's name is constantly in the mix too, it just shows that these brothers are all cut from the same cloth. And then you have Destiny Payton, who also played her role in the group's dynamic.